Hey guys, and today is going to be a very different video. So in the last episode of Metal Gear Rising, I made a comment about the game's story that I didn't think was entirely fair. I think I said something to the effect of like, it's not a very good story and it's a little disconnected and disjointed, which is true. However, what I didn't mention is that I think the game really relies on you having a somewhat decent understanding of Raiden as a character in the Metal Gear series. And that's something I think is often forgotten about when people talk about this game. Raiden's character arc up to this point. He has starred in his own game once already and was heavily featured in another. And both of those take place before this game. So I decided that today, instead of doing a normal commentary-filled video, I am just going to recount to you the entire life and story of Raiden across the Metal Gear series. And if that's not something you're interested in hearing about, then don't worry, the next episode is already up, you can go watch that. The only thing of real importance today is I will show the cutscene for this mission. So anyways, let's watch that cutscene and I'll get back to you in a moment.
Investigating a motive. President Hamilton is on his way to the Middle East this morning for his scheduled visit with Pakistani President Farooq Salam. The meeting is viewed as an attempt by the U.S. to strengthen relations amidst a surge of anti-American sentiment in the region.
Yo, me ninja brother!
George, good to see you up and about. How you feeling?
Never better, nah? No pain, no more for star while them hunger space eat, and me never ever feel so awake, nah?
That's because your blood sugar levels are being maintained automatically. Beats the hell out of coffee.
Oh! Me been here you go while I got them scone in the base. Why the rasta you not take me with ya, huh?
Damn it, Doc. Sorry, kid. You'd just be in the way.
Aw.
Besides, I thought you didn't want to be a killer, right?
Me don't, but...
Killing isn't fun and games. Remember that.
Right.
That's all I needed to hear.
No!
It yearns to bathe in the blood of your enemies, but you hold it back.
Yeah, just remember that.
Raiden, what is this, Garnia? You cannot resign!
Sorry, Boris, it's done. Can't have a Maverick employee involved in a corporate raiding now, can we?
You could at least come talk to me.
No. It was time to break away from the old team, Boris. Past time.
You cannot take on Marshall all by yourself.
I won't sit by while they butcher little kids and ship their parts around like meat. It's sick.
It's not all so simple, Raiden. They import those brains legally. For medical purposes, it's all done.
Being legal doesn't make it right.
Raiden,
Hold that thought.
Fuck you, asshole!
I will patrol ahead. Military Cyborg, you are not licensed to operate in this area. You're in violation of state and federal law.
Guess you better arrest me then.
183-104.7, threatening a peace officer. Deadly force is authorized.
Alright, you're still here. Well, let's begin looking at Raiden's backstory. In 1983, a boy is born in the country of Liberia. The Civil War is currently going on, and the boy's parents are killed. He is then adopted by a man named Solidus and is raised to be a child soldier. Solidus names the boy Jack, and later on he earns the nickname Jack the Ripper. Jack shows a lot of promise, and he ends up commanding his own squad of child soldiers by the age of 10. The Civil War ends, and Solidus leaves Jack in a relief center. Without Solidus' knowledge, Jack is taken from the refugee center by a shadowy government organization, who implant a high dose of nanomachines in his brain for later use. Jack was chosen over the other child soldiers because he hated his past. An extension of this is that he is now off every government database in the world. As Jack grows up, he suppresses as many memories as he can, but he was still subject to intense nightmares. Eventually, Jack joins the US military and quickly stands out, landing him a position in Special Forces. He begins VR training, simulating past military operations, including the Shadow Moses incident of 2005. This leads Jack to begin idolizing the legendary soldier, Solid Snake. As do we all, Raiden. Around 2007, he is stationed in New York City where he meets a girl named Rosemary, who also goes by Rose. She is a psychologist and the two begin dating. 2007 is also the year of the oil tanker incident, which leaves Solid Snake dead and tons of crude oil in New York's harbor. At some point around this time, Jack joins the Foxhound unit. In 2009, a terrorist group called Dead Cell kidnaps the US president while he is on an inspection to the Big Shell oil rig designed to clean up the oil spill from the tanker incident. The leader of these terrorists claims to be Solid Snake. Jack is sent in to rescue the president. He is given the codename Snake, and his CEO is Major Roy Campbell, the same man who helped the original Solid Snake during the Shadow Moses incident. Rose also manages to join the operation as a field psychologist against Raiden's wishes. Upon arriving at the Big Shell, Jack's codename is changed from Snake to Raiden. Upon entering the facility, Raiden runs into a Navy SEAL named Iroquois Pliskin and a Cyborg Ninja named Olga Gurlukovich. Pliskin and Olga help Raiden as he navigates through the Big Shell and comes across the different terrorist members. As Raiden goes through the facility, he slowly learns that all of the intel for this mission has been false. Despite bringing up his concerns, Campbell instructs the boy to continue. Raiden comes face to face with the leader of the terrorists, only to realize that it is not Solid Snake. The man leading is in fact Solidus Snake, the third clone of Big Boss who is more genetically pure than both Solid and Liquid. At this point, Iroquois Pliskin also reveals that he is indeed Solid Snake, still alive and well. Raiden finally realizes that the Big Shell is all a cover for a new Metal Gear called Arsenal Gear, and Solidus is hoping to steal it in order to fight a shadowy government organization known as the Patriots. Raiden attempts to help Snake plant a virus in Arsenal Gear because the machine houses an AI which the Patriots plan to use as a form of information control. Raiden is then captured and brought aboard Arsenal Gear. Solidus reveals his past connection with Raiden, telling him how he killed Raiden's parents and then trained the boy as a child soldier to become a sort of twisted son. Solidus' plan is to fight the Patriots because he believes they will soon be a worldwide threat. He plans on launching a nuke over New York City which will cause an EMP blast, knocking out all of the Patriots' control. He will then run New York City as a free state as an act of rebellion. Raiden escapes and tries to leave Arsenal Gear, but while doing so, Campbell begins acting very crazy, and Rose would occasionally chime in as well. In fact, at one point Rose tells Raiden that their whole relationship was a lie. She was a spy hired by the Patriots to keep tabs on Raiden. Raiden, on the brink of sanity at this point, doesn't know whether this is really Rose or some sort of hallucination he's seeing.
Raiden, what's your status?
They trashed my car. I'll have to go the rest of the way on foot.
You'd really have...
Look, I'm fed up with all of it. Companies like ours, yours, bend the laws when it suits business. Why not bend it when it can save innocent lives?
Raiden,
Boris, listen to me. That VR training, they'll be warped into killing machines. They'll be set on POWs, civilians. It'll be one atrocity after another.
Like what you went through.
We can't have any more Jack the Rippers. You saw I'm doing this, Boris.
She also claims that she did genuinely fall in love with him, despite her original mission, and is currently pregnant with his child. Snake helps Raiden get a hold of himself and tells him to focus on what is real, the threat that's posed by Solidus and the Patriots. Snake also gives Raiden his first high-frequency blade. Raiden, Snake, and Olga confront Solidus and Revolver Ocelot. Ocelot reveals himself to actually be an agent of the Patriots, and reveals that both Snake, Raiden, and Solidus have been set up by the Patriots. Snake goes off to deal with Ocelot. Olga sacrifices herself to save Raiden, asking him to save her own child from the Patriots, who they had been holding hostage, and said they would kill the girl if Raiden ever died. While the fighting is going on, Arsenal gear crashes into Federal Hall with Raiden and Solidus still atop it. Campbell calls Raiden and begins giving some answers to this whole convoluted situation. So it turns out, the Campbell and Rose that Raiden had been talking to were actually a part of the Patriot AI. This whole mission, in fact, was a test to see how far and how effective their censorship program could be. Raiden was selected as the test subject due not only to his past, but the fact that he had overcome it. He was strong-willed, and if they could control him, they could control anybody. The whole Big Shell incident was modeled after the Shadow Moses incident, but with Raiden getting to play the part of Solid Snake. This is what Raiden has always wanted, a chance to be the hero. And so he continued on with his mission, despite having bad intel, facing increasingly outlandish situations, and being brought to the edge of sanity. Raiden followed this illusion set up by the Patriots just because he thought that they were trustworthy, and that he could get what he always wanted out of it. This, in the mind of the Patriots, proved that humanity could not be trusted with free will. And so the Patriots could assert their control over the world. Raiden was just a tool, and their last order was for him to kill Solidus. Otherwise, they would kill Olga's daughter, along with Rose, who was in fact real, and Raiden's currently unborn son. Solidus was also bent on killing Raiden, because it turns out that the nanomachines that had been placed in his brain as a child worked as a backup system for the Patriots. So Solidus could find and kill whoever was behind this whole thing just by killing Raiden. The two fight, and Raiden kills Solidus, meaning the Patriots won. Solidus is blamed for the whole incident, and the Patriots are allowed to run free until Snake and Raiden can counteract them. Snake and his friend Otacon discover that the Patriots are currently just an AI system, as whoever designed them and set them up have long since died. In the meantime, though, things are relatively peaceful, and Raiden decides to settle down with Rose so they can start a family and Raiden can try to have a normal life for the first time. Okay, I know that was very, very convoluted, but that was basically a summary of the entirety of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. We're a little over halfway through, and things shouldn't be nearly as convoluted, but still a little complicated from this point onward. Just bear with me. Raiden begins adjusting to a normal life and begins launching independent attacks against the Patriots. Eventually, he finds the base where the Patriots were keeping Olga's daughter, whose name is Sunny, and he sets her free, leaving her in the care of Snake and Otacon. Quick tangent here. Snake and Otacon are not gay despite raising a child together. Do you hear me? You want to know how I know this? Because this man right here has slept with more people than anyone else in the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Like, I'm serious. This dude, this nerdy looking dude, whose name, Otacon, is literally Otaku Communicator, who in his first scene pees his pants and admits that he watches Japanese anime, has a higher body count than the legendary soldier Solid freaking Snake. This just goes to show that there's hope for nerdy guys with glasses and long crazy hair everywhere. That includes you. You know who you are. Okay, I know that was a little bit of a funny tangent, but I felt like I needed some comedy in here because things are about to get very, very dark and bleak. Raiden and Rose begin having relational issues. Rose tells Raiden that she ended up losing the baby she was carrying. This causes Raiden to grow very distant, at which point Rose begins having an affair with Roy Campbell. I should also point out, Rose and Campbell are the same people that the AI chose to impersonate during the Big Shell incident. Just think about the effect that would have had on Raiden's mental state. Raiden then falls into alcoholism as he and Rose split, where he begins reckless attacks against the Patriots with the help of a resistance group called the Paradise Lost Army. While on one particular mission to recover the remains of Big Boss, Raiden is captured by the Patriots. He is then subjected to brutal experiments in cybernetics. His head and his spine are removed from his body and grafted onto a cyborg frame. So from the jaw down, he is completely robotic. The only part of skin that you see on Raiden is the only part of him that is still human. Despite this torture, Raiden manages to escape and continues fighting against the Patriots. Barely human, both physically and emotionally. This is where the events of Metal Gear Solid 4 begin. This game is notorious for making absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's also notorious for literally having more cutscene than gameplay, but you know, I swear I'm going to just gloss over this game because Raiden takes a much more of a backseat here, but it is still important. So at this point, the Patriots run everything without the public knowing. The world is thrown into a constant state of war. After the Big Shell incident, no one trusted government militaries anymore. So private military corporations, or PMCs, are created as hireable armies for countries. The Patriots actually control every major PMC, meaning the worldwide wars are completely and utterly pointless, only serving to create what is called the war economy. Essentially, the Patriots are constantly war profiteering and then using the money to further their control over the rest of the world. Snake begins his final mission to eradicate the Patriots and destroy the war economy. While on a mission in South America, Raiden reveals himself to Snake and begins helping wherever he can. On multiple occasions, Raiden tries to sacrifice himself in order to save Snake and let the man get away. Raiden kept trying to fight despite his mechanical body breaking down because he desperately wants to be free of the Patriots. It is my personal belief that he was also suicidal at this time, given his multiple emotional breakdowns and the amount of times he saved Solid Snake from certain death situations, putting himself in his place. While on a mission returning to Shadow Moses, Ocelot attempts to ram an entire battleship into Solid Snake, killing him. However, Raiden jumps in front of the boat and holds it back with his own strength. But eventually he gives out and is crushed by the boat, seemingly dead. During Snake's final assault against the Patriot AIs, Raiden again reveals himself to be alive and is here to help Snake. But he is now missing both of his arms, having to fight with his blade in his mouth. He holds back the Patriot soldiers long enough for Solid Snake to upload the final virus, killing the Patriot AIs for good. While he is successful, Raiden was still overwhelmed and badly damaged by the Patriot forces until the very final moments. A month later, he wakes up in a hospital bed with a new, more human-looking cyborg body. At this point, Rose comes to visit Raiden. At first, Raiden wants nothing to do with her, but she reveals that she had never actually had an affair with Campbell. It was all a ploy to protect Raiden from the control of the Patriots, who were planning on using his weakened mental state and leveraging Rose in order to get him to continue doing their bidding. Rose also reveals that their son did not die. He is still very much alive, and Raiden is very much now a father. Despite everything, Raiden forgives Rose for her deception, and now with the Patriots truly eradicated, he enjoys a regular civilian life. Sometime after this, he meets with an old friend of Olga Gurlukovich's father, Boris, who helps him secure a job at his new security PMC, Maverick, where Raiden was able to find safe bodyguard work and provide for his family. And that is where we find Raiden at the beginning of this game. I'm hoping that now, with all of this backstory, maybe some of the things we've seen make more sense in context, particularly last episode when he was so disturbed by the child soldiers. That is because he himself was a child soldier at some point and underwent the same conditioning. It is no stretch to say that Raiden is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time, and that is in no small part due to this very dark, very deep, convoluted story that he has. And this game is the end of that character arc. Do I think it lands? Well, that's a little bit complicated. That's too complicated of an answer. But I will say that hopefully with all this new information, this can give you a new perspective on Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance as we continue to play through the game. We're about halfway through, and I know we're going to be finishing it before too long. Anyways, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Enemy ahead, Raiden! Avoid fighting if you can.